right, guys, let's take a look at this week's internet weather. So these are the top 10 most probed ports for the past week. You can see that most of these ports have stayed in their regular ranking except for 8080 TCP. But we'll do the run through all the same. So 23 TCP is in first place. That's Telnet, followed by 445 TCP. That's SMB. 00 ICMP is one of the ICMP ping ports. 1433 TCP is Microsoft's SQL server, I believe. 443 TCP is TLS SSL, followed by 80 TCP, which is plain old web, HTTP. 22 TCP in seventh place is SSH. 3389 in eighth place is RDP. 8080 TCP is an alternate web port. We see a lot of IoT devices with this. Sometimes we see squid proxies, generic web stuff, although someone seems to be very interested in it this week for some particular reason. And rounding out the top 10 is 81 TCP, which is, again, another web port. Taking a look at the most sources probing for the past week, you can see that, again, not a whole lot of changes here. Skipping over a bunch of the ports we've already discussed, 27032 UDP is related to the Steam service for gaming. 5555 TCP in ninth place is Android Remote Debug Bridge. And 8081 is another web port. So interestingly, 8080 and 8081 have both been major movers and shakers, one in terms of number of sources probing and one in terms of the amount of traffic. So we'll take a closer look at both of those. So taking a look at scan flows on 8080, this is the amount of traffic. It looks like there's been a regular number of cycles of peaks, say give or take every week or so, I want to say. That looks about right. The major sources for those spikes are in Vietnam and Australia. Unfortunately, I don't have much more information to tell you about what they're looking for, because again, so many services end up on these web ports. But it is one to keep a close eye on. And scan sources on 8081, which is web, and I had neglected to mention, but McAfee EPO or ePolicy Orchestrator also happens to use this port for some of its functions. You can see a definite number in the you can see a definite uptick in the number of scanning sources coming in around the 22nd, 23rd of November. Yeah, it's definitely raised the floor up significantly to, let's say, take out the really spiky stuff and somewhere around 700 scan sources an hour. Actually, the high-end spikes are around 900. But at the time that I actually took a look at this, it was around 800. And these sources seem to be almost exclusively in Mauritius, which is interesting. It's a small, I believe it's an island nation. Again, the objective is unknown. So these are both some ports to keep an eye on if you happen to have servers listening on these ports. If you do get a sample of the traffic, it would be great to know, if you guys see a little bit more of what's actually in this traffic than we do.
Yeah, so the 8081 is interesting, right? If obviously we don't know what it is, whether it's just plain web or if it's actually looking, if it's related to the McAfee EPO, but that's a little concerning, right? Because McAfee EPO is, typically used by, in the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is either a vulnerability or that's leading up to an attack, it's concerning because it is then probably going to be targeting enterprise.
That's true. I mean, I can think of reasons why someone might want to scan for EPO boxes. The EPO service, I think, does give you some information about the host itself. Nothing super sensitive, but maybe I think a host name and some logs related to the operation of the service. Mm-hmm. Maybe more than that. I really don't know.
Right.
I have seen it before. I can picture that webpage in my mind. But yeah, I mean, if you were scanning the whole wide internet for this, you would probably find a good number of boxes that if they had EPO on them and were exposed to the internet, you could talk to.
The internet, right?
Yeah. But usually you wouldn't have I don't think you would put a box like this on the internet. I mean, again, people misconfigure things all the time. I wouldn't be surprised anymore, but originally, when I started this, doing the show, I would be very surprised to find certain services exposed to the internet. But now, anything goes. It's the internet.